So I wanted to thank everyone for coming. Obviously I've been teasing about small changes coming for a little while now, so you're all here and I want you to hear about it. So let's just have a quick look back at HugTrain. So HugTrain was founded in 2009. We've done 11 annual Hug tours. HugTrain started with a small change. So I'm very excited about where we're going in terms of small changes and what that means for the future of HugTrain. And so just a quick overview. HugTrain started because I had a personal trip. I was inspired by a lot of trips that were happening around that time on social media, and HugTrain. HugTrain sort of was born from this trip that I was doing around the States by train. I was moving from Montreal to London, and I said, well, I'll take some time off and see all these friends, because at that time I had a few thousand followers on Twitter already. And I was like, well, let's see what happens. And one of the people that I was in contact with, actually, there was this woman whose husband was a pilot, and they were going to fly around the the world in a small plane, giving out hugs and raising money for local charities. So I tried to take that sort of model on and integrate it into HugTrain. And I was only going to do one trip, and every year, fortunately or unfortunately, I found the means and I found a new reason to keep doing it. And so we've had 11 tours. So, and so that was one small change. Another small change happened actually after the third year. Um, I had a, I had a brain injury in London, and I decided to move back to Montreal. And so I couldn't really pay for the trip myself anymore. And at this time, sort of my friends had sort of become used to the fact that HugTrain was happening, and they encouraged me to crowdfund. And I was sort of in a spot where I was like, well, shouldn't I be raising money for charities that run all year round? Isn't this like a strange kind of thing for me to take money for just this thing that only lasts 2 weeks? And while I was pondering that, I got an email from someone that I had hugged the first year and who I'd not been in touch with at all the following few years. And 3 years later, out of the blue, he sends me an email saying, hey, I wanted you to know that I'm still thinking about that hug, and it's really changed the way that I've looked at life. And that sort of was the next change, was to make it a crowdfunded movement. And that made it into a movement, because it wasn't just me originating and the people that I was reaching. It was the people that were contributing in all the different ways that they were able to, whether it was a place to sleep or money or a ride or a conversation or a message or help with graphics or, all the little things that people were contributing to this movement. And then another thing, I was renting a room, but I didn't know that the lease was up at the end of November, and it sort of turned into, okay, well, let's add Canada to this. And then we did Canada, and the fundraising went really well for that, and that sort of became a thing. And the year after, we had a videographer follow us around, and it's always just been these little changes, and it's really just about these small shifts that, and that's one of the big messages that HugTrain has been trying to push, but I think maybe has gotten lost in the very important message about loneliness and about the ability of small things like hugs to make a difference, is that it's within everyone's power to make a difference and to change the world. And that's where we're at right now in terms of where I want to take you with HugTrain, is focusing on that message of connecting people to their power and the power of their small changes. So what have I learned from HugTrain? Up until now, what I've learned is that definitely a proof of concept is very important. In the initial years, it was really hard to get people's head around it, and what made it easier to explain to people, to explain HugTrain and the validity of HugTrain to people, was having a proof of concept. We were really lucky in the fact that there was a lot, as the years progressed, more and more studies came out about hugs, about hugs and loneliness. Loneliness as an epidemic became something that more and more people became aware of. The UK has a minister for loneliness now. And so we were really lucky to have that proof of concept. And the more we were able to build on that proof of concept, the easier it was. And even in fact, in the last 2 years, given their generosity of the people that we've connected with over the years, we've actually run at a surplus for both of our fundraising, the last two fundraising years, which would indicate that we've definitely got our message through, and we've built a strong movement, and we're doing good work. And that's something that everyone who's participated in one way or another should, pat themselves on the back, and really, recognize the importance of what we've built together. And definitely another thing that I've learned from HugTrain, looking at the mechanisms of how this all works, the shifts from mental health to loneliness was this understanding, that hugs help with loneliness, and then there's another shift that I'm presenting to you today, and the idea is that it all starts from self-compassion, right? What HugTrain proved really, really well was that if you are able to give yourself the compassion to be the imperfect people that we are, right? So we're all born and designed, sort of, if you will, imperfectly. And we need other people. That's how we're built. We're built to need other people, and we need to be able to sort of look at what we're taught about always being perfect and always, and being vulnerable and being self-sufficient and not needing other people and not being hurt by trusting the wrong people and all that. And we have all that messaging that comes, but the reality is that whether we like it or not, if you're not able to be compassionate enough with yourself to admit that you are imperfect, that you need others, then you're not really building terribly strong connections or communities. And that's really what I want to do. And it's not a criticism of people who don't do that. It's just that it's definitely not something that we're sold. But if we're able to admit that we're imperfect, then the next step is to be able to be vulnerable enough to ask for help, which is happening a lot right now. We've made it a lot easier, unfortunately, with all the things that are coming together. We've made it a lot easier to ask for help. And then in that asking for help and getting the help, there's a lot of relief, and there's a lot of feeling of being seen. And when it's, and whether it's a hug or a different kind of exchange, like what people are doing now on mutual aid groups, for example, that ability to help and be helped is really forming, is really giving people confidence in their abilities to make a difference, and their confidence in their permission to ask for help. And so definitely that, the root cause of that is self-compassion. And I think we can do a lot more with it and expand it beyond hugs, which I'm going to get to in a second. So then the next point is about, the main big lesson, obviously, from HugTrain is that people are powerful. And there's definitely two concepts here that I want to bring up. So there's the idea of Archimedes. And Archimedes, was famous for the concept of the fulcrum. And it's about applying pressure in the right place. So sort of, when you see my hand, so this is, I'll use this as an example as a fulcrum. And so most people know what a seesaw is, right? So if you put the fulcrum in the middle, then the weight is distributed evenly. But even if you put it here, if you have enough weight, if you put weight up here and you move it there, you can still move something that's much, much heavier, because it's about where you put that fulcrum. And understanding where we put that fulcrum and where we put our focus is really understanding that we can change the world. And it doesn't, again have to be that many people. And that's another thing that Margaret Mead is known for. Her quote is about never doubt that a small group of concerned citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that has. And I think if we take those two things together, then we really understand that individuals are very powerful. And I think it's just about helping people direct that energy that they're using to make a difference and show them the ways that are effective. And so I present to you the next phase of this movement, which is the Small Change Institute. And the Small Change Institute will be a think tank and a research institute to discover the many different small changes that people can make in their lives to make a big difference. So we have a few problems. And right now, loneliness is a big problem. It's something that HugTrain has taken a bit of a whack at. And I think, unfortunately, with the pandemic, there isn't that possibility to do it with hugs. But I think definitely that there are other small things that people can do that won't take their time, won't take as much time, won't take them out of their way, but that are still powerful. Because the reality is that if someone has nothing and you have a small thing that they don't have, but that they need, and you give it to them, it may not have cost you anything. but it made a huge difference to them. And that's kind of the idea. And I think one big thing that HugTrain did was show people that they matter and that they were seen, and we were able to contribute to that, definitely. So, and now we also have this, if you want, juxtaposition of three major crises on top of everything else that have made these, so the systemic inequalities in our society glaring, right? It's sort of painfully obvious that there are massive systemic inequalities in the society the way that it's built. And I think it's also giving people a sense of being overwhelmed, of being stressed out, of being powerless, right? They come to this conclusion, and I've heard it for a long time. It's not just now, I've heard it for a long time, and it's actually something that personally I've been trying to solve, which is what led me to HugTrain in the first place. And that's this concept that I'm just one person. So many people have said to me, I'm just one person, what I do doesn't matter. I'm just one person, real change has to come from the top. I am powerless, I can't do anything. And what I really want to do with the Small Change Institute is actually show people that their small contribution makes a difference, and that it will add up. And the way that I want to do that is, build confidence in the power of individuals. So identify ideas and actions that they can take that have been verified to make a difference. So there is this, I think that if we build people's confidence in their power, it'll, snowball into influencing others, into building stronger relationships, into building stronger, resilient communities. It's definitely what we're seeing right now with the pandemic, is that there are a lot of these mutual aid groups popping up and a lot of help happening that sort of circumvents, if you will, the lack of help that these systemic inequalities have created for a lot of people who don't have the same access to other things. And by doing that and building community and reaching out further into all of our personal networks, so the people that we know, not only to find the solutions and help grow the Small Change Institute, but also to grow the movement. If we say, okay, well, hugs are out right now because of the pandemic, and hugs were always a difficult way to access this, because I think the messaging got a little bit crowded, but also, there's a lot of stress around getting up in the middle of a train with strangers that you don't know, that you're going to have to spend the next 54 hours with, and standing up, right? Being, there's the concept in psychology of the bystander effect. And this is the idea of being that first person to stand up and stick out from the crowd, can be stressful. So there was always that big ask. And also, with hugs, there's always concerns about consent. And that's definitely something that HugTrain's always been very strict about. But it's just, there are a lot of barriers, and it gets very confusing and constricted. But I think there are definitely a lot of similar actions, even though hugs are really, really perfect for just demonstrating all the things that we want to demonstrate. I think that there are many, many more actions that are available. And by identifying those, then we'll be able to grow this movement, build on what we've built as HugTrain, and grow it even more and help reach more people, and build a society that we want to live in, where we're all helping each other out, because we're all okay with the fact that we're not perfect, because we're all okay with the fact that we need help, and we're all okay with the fact that asking for that help. So the approach and the strategy for the Small Change Institute will be to identify opportunities for action, and looking at whether it's in mindfulness, or it's in things like protests and petitions, or and that sort of political action, or whether it's about the environment, and does it really make a difference to turn down your thermostat 1 degree? Does it, answering these questions to say, does it really make a difference? Evaluating the impact of all these things that we have, and maybe finding new ones by analyzing what's out there and what the opportunities for action are, and then publishing that information in different formats that are accessible to different people in different complexities, whether it's infographics or articles or podcasts or educational kits or action kits or workshops, that sort of thing, really helping people, connect with these things and find things that will actually make a difference. If we're able to say, this isn't going to take you too much time out of your day, but it's going to make a difference. This is something that we've proven here. Go take it, and the hope is that we'll be able to build a movement like that, because the proof of concept will be there. If we go back to some of the problems, the proof of concept will be there. The self-compassion hopefully will be built on that, and the power of individuals is absolutely there. And we hopefully will be able to answer that. I'm just one person, yes, but this one thing that you do, if you do it as just one person without waiting for the approval of everyone else, and without the uptake of everyone else, and without the change that we believe must come from above, then these are things that are actually going to make a difference. And that's really what we're hoping to do. And at this point, so really, if you want to help grow HugTrain into this movement and of building strong connections and helping and empowering people, then there are a few things that you can do. So obviously, the first thing, if you want to join the team, I'm happy to have you. Please let me know, how you want to be involved, and we can go from there. There's also co-design conversations that are happening in October and November. So bringing people together, seeing what's possible, hashing it out, getting a much clearer idea of how this is going to work, and what people can take on, and what ideas are out there in terms of making this the best version of itself it can be. And obviously, there's introducing people who can help. So if you can think of anyone who would love this kind of thing, who has the skills to help me bring this vision to life, please do send them my way. And that's that's really the things that I can think of right now in terms of help. And I obviously love your feedback. So if you have my contact information, it's ari@hugtrain.org. And there's also my phone number. Obviously, you can reach me through social media as well if you need to. This is the information for people who don't have me on social media. And I'm always happy to have a chat or an email, so please don't hesitate. And that's pretty much it for me. So I really wanted to thank you guys for listening. And now it's over to you. So do people have questions? Did you have stories that you wanted to share about small changes that you've made? So please, raise your hand, introduce yourselves, and have at it. And thank you so much for listening. I really hope that you're as excited as I am. All right, we're going to go with Paul first.
Well, I want to thank you for inviting me to this. Mm-hmm. For the two, for well, not Lorenzo, but and Lorenzo's partner, I guess, or because I spoke to them a little bit earlier about how I had met Ari. When I met Ari, I completely fell in love with the whole concept of the HugTrain, and I met him in the context of, I wouldn't say it was a random act of kindness, but it was as I previously mentioned before we started the call, I was shooting interviews with strangers on the street for a TV show I was producing. Long interviews, personal interviews, and then cutting them up into segments that were theme specific for TV. And in my own way, I didn't really know this going in, how powerful it would be to give people an unfiltered platform to express themselves. But that was sort of what my show was. So HugTrain really resonated with me because Ari was capturing people in public spaces. And I was doing the same thing. I was capturing people in public spaces and interviewing people and basically, like, in many cases, liberating people in some ways, or providing them an outlet. A lot of people I'd be interviewing people, and at the end of the interview, like, I would say about maybe 20% of the people I interviewed would give me a hug because it felt so good. So the hug, everything about the HugTrain concept resonates with me. I have a lot of ideas. We all know about this idea of random acts of kindness. I do them all the time, mostly when, like, not recently, but like usually when I'm in a food court. If I'm unfortunately in a food court, and I'm buying lunch, I will often buy lunch for the people behind me if I have the cash. And even like little things like that. You know, one of the easiest things I think that's free, that is maybe not like explicitly in that random act of kindness, is like smiling. Smiles are free, and I've noticed that like the more I smile, especially with people I don't know, the better my life is, and hopefully the better their lives are. So I don't exactly know how I can help and be involved. I have a few ideas, and I'll share them with you, not now. And we've talked a little bit about my questions about, you know, you want to start a think tank, you want to start an institute. Is it are you envisioning a structure of some sort? If we step up and say we want to be involved, we'll have responsibilities. I'm guessing in some capacity from an administrative point of view. So those are questions to have, just in terms of, you know, what this all. I mean, I know you're just starting it and you're kind of seeking people's help and advice and feedback, but those would be some of my questions.
Okay, great.
That's great. When you contacted me, I was super excited that you were doing something like this.
Cool. And thanks for that, Paul. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you sharing with us about the smiling and what HugTrain means to you. I really appreciate that. Sophie, you want to go next?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, I think it's a great idea. I think it shows vision and leadership, and I hope like rooted in science and some in society. Your presentation was. Something I'd like to share. It reminds me. I used to work in immigration, like a center welcoming newcomers to the country and to the city, and trying to build a community life and help them navigate through like the complex system that is immigration and paperwork and stuff. But like by finding a community and by being involved in it, and something that like really hurt people and really surprised them and really made them a bit homesick for certain people, was how the neighbors wouldn't say hi, or they didn't feel welcome in the neighborhood, or they didn't know their downstairs neighbor, and how different it was from their previous experiences. So we started, we were discussing this and thinking about it and thinking about ways to make it be different, you know, and what they could do about it. And people started like being actively smiling and saying hi and introducing themselves to their neighbor, and it really changed their experiences, and like the feedback that they got was very positive. And it was just like, and a woman shared that she just had a baby, and that one of her tradition is to share food with all the community when you have a baby, which is the opposite in Quebec. But she mentioned that like she dropped a plate of food to their neighbors in her block, and people brought back more food. Like when they brought back the plate, they brought back food that they made and prepared. So I thought that like when you empower people, as you mentioned, great things, small things, but great things can happen. So yeah, it inspires me as well.
Cool. Thanks so much for sharing. Lorenzo, since you're unmuted.
Yeah, such a better story than what I had. God. Yeah, this is cool, Harry. Thanks for inviting me, inviting us. It's cool. It's really exciting to discover, and I like how it follows on from HugTrain and how you really connected. You really connected it from what you learned in the experiences. And it's crazy that HugTrain went for 11 years. I haven't known Ari for that long. I've known you for a couple of years now, but when I met you, you had just come off HugTrain, I think.
Yeah.
And then the year after, when it wasn't possible for you to go yourself, she found someone else to go and do HugTrain. So you even passed on the baton which is impressive. And now you're taking it a whole other level, and it's cool. And I like also it's very straightforward. The next steps very simple, but specific and concrete. Like let's think together. Let's find other people who might be curious. Anyone who wants to be involved. It's very like and that's how you build it. I think gradually. So that's super cool. I know you asked also if you had stories about small changes. I don't know. It's like I feel like I have none and I have a million. There's so many. It's like just the way we met, right? It's like it was. I was looking for a flatmate at the time, and a bunch of people visited, but I don't know why we hit it off when you visited, and then I was like, well, who do you choose? But several people just in the apartment. It clicked, and that's what brings me to not just to knowing you, but also all the way here today. Which is it's funny how these things go sometimes. Otherwise, yeah, nothing as inspiring, I think, as Paul and so forth. I did see today that was kind of cool. You mentioned the mutual aid groups, and there was someone, we're in Villeray, so we're in the Villeray one, and a guy posted like, it's just such a nicely framed, like open-ended question. It was just like, how's everyone doing? Like, what's it like for you? Is there anything like that we should do as a group to make it like, the coming weeks easier for everyone, and not raising stakes too high. And so many people in the comments were just so excited for that person to just ask the question, to just ask a nice open question, not making any particular statement, not like, requesting necessarily, but just like opening up the floor for people to express how they felt. And I was like, damn, man, that was just a fairly simple act, but it's pretty powerful. So it's just the latest from 2 hours ago. But yeah, thanks again, Ari.
All right. Yeah, and thank you, Lorenzo. Actually, I just had one question for everyone. I'm recording this, and I wanted to share it with other people who couldn't make it. Is that okay with everyone? All right, so David, you want to go?
Oh, sure. Yeah, this is great. This is very exciting, and yeah, it's neat to see the evolution of HugTrain to this. I was also thinking, like just watching you speak. You're very good at expressing all these concepts, and I kind of feel like one avenue you could maybe play with is like a YouTube channel. I don't know.
Yeah,
I could totally see it. I don't know. And just a random thing today, I noticed like driving. I was driving, and someone just did like I live in Toronto, and traffic is awful, and people are really aggressive. And someone did something for me really, really nice. Like they just opened up the road for me to let me come in. And it kind of inspired me to just do that to the next person. And I feel like that's a place that we don't always think about random acts of kindness to push people to do.
Mm-hmm.
Could be an interesting thing, Maybe change behavior, save some lives. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing. Ronnie, you're next.
Okay, yeah, so I'm just going to echo what everybody said, that this is exciting, and it seems like a really natural role for you. Definitely like hearing you kind of express all these things, and it's nice to see it all come together. And building on the YouTube, I was thinking TED Talk, It sounds like we've got a TED Talk in the works, so we could have that kind of as a long-term goal, and then work, I don't know how one gets invited to a TED Talk, but it just seemed like a natural fit. So in terms of small changes, it's hard for me to think of something small just because of all of the massive changes that have gone on in the last couple months. But I did just join the Green Party, so that's a small change, I guess. I'd call it kind of small because it doesn't, not much has changed for me. I just voted for a couple people I thought would be fun to watch as the leader. And then, so I think, that's probably the small change I saw there. There's some kind of lefty green push within the Green Party that is getting some interesting kind of attention, and it's just politics is being framed by potential leaders in Canada in a way that I've never really seen it framed. So That's pretty exciting. And hopefully that'll lead to more larger change, but for the time being, just a little small one.
Yeah, I mean, everything starts with that. Actually, Anton, who was the person that I mentored through being the Hug Master last year, was on the call earlier. He was actually supposed to be on at 7:30, but he was able to join us earlier, and he shared a story which is really interesting. And he was holding an apple, and the concept that he gave is that in this apple you might have 4 or 5 seeds. But those seeds, as small as they are, if you plant one of them, each tree will give about 100 apples a year. So it looks small, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to plant those seeds of, I believe in myself. This is something that I can do. This is something that matters. And talking about random acts of kindness, talking about paying it forward, talking about, seeing people do something small, like let you into traffic, and then you wanting to pay it forward, that kind of thing. Like, that's where we're going. That's why it's about the small changes. That's why the focus is there. That's why, because as much as we want to sort of focus our energy on the establishment and the institutions that don't really have an impetus to change, I think that we have an opportunity here to take all the little things that we can do and grow them into these resilient, interdependent networks of people, and that we don't depend on those institutions that uphold all the systemic inequalities. So yeah, feel free if you guys to hang out for a little bit. It's only 8:15. I know Paul has to go.
I would honestly prefer to stay.
Yeah.
Except I have I do some work on the West Coast, and so everything is just, I'm still working at I have the calls after 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock our time. It's just a total drag, but I really want to thank you. I'm going to follow up with you. It was nice to meet everyone and just hear how you know Ari, and it sounds like there's a lot of momentum and there's some excitement behind what you're doing. So keep pushing us, and I will definitely make a point to speak to you this week.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Nice to meet you, Paul.
You too, guys. Look forward look forward to meeting you again.
Cool.
Good.
So yeah, building on what you were saying, Arya, there's the structural changes and then maybe the more kind of grassroots thing. I think it's something that I've thought about a bit more lately, and it's I always find those two are quite separated a lot. You know what I mean? Like there's systems and then there's grassroots, but I think the grassroots itself is also its own kind of ecosystem. And I think feeding into that it is great, because if the grassroots grows big enough, right, then you can actually have the systems and structure of power that they can kind of leverage against a bit more. So and one of the reasons I kind of gravitated there was because I always maybe obsess a little bit too much over those kind of larger systems, and it becomes, it's one thing to build your analytical framework about these systems, but then what do you do from there? And I think that's where the grassroots really allows for that kind of energy for people who think about systems theory a lot to then actually mobilize and manifest something more concrete and from the ground up. So I think that's great. It's exciting.
Well, I want to say actually that I am also a systems thinker. I've always been about the bigger thing, but yeah, I kept coming up against this wall of, but I'm just one person. What is one person matter? Where's the critical mass? Where's the and that's the thing is, so what I sort of did is, it's something I've always been good at, is finding little ways that the systems can change and how we can influence the systems, right? Where to put the fulcrum kind of thing. But also realizing, that I kept coming up against this, oh, I'm just one person, and not wanting to hear that anymore, because the reality is that if every person says I'm just one person, and instead of saying, but therefore there's nothing I can do, but I'm just one person, but here's what I can contribute, right? Then not only do we come together and build something really great together, but also that's really, I think, where change happens. Because if we try to go at the bigger power structures, there are ingrained interest there. I mean, there's very, you know, there's a lot more energy required to move that needle than there is to say, hey, this is something that's easy. This is something that's proven. It's not going to take much time. Let's all come together, and together we do something. And I think we're seeing that now. I think we're seeing a need for it. We're seeing it happen to a certain extent, and that's why I sort of want to, you know, move this along as quickly as possible to start getting out there and doing it now when people do have that awareness, and we have this excuse, you know. Unfortunately, we don't tend to do this kind of mutual aid unless we've had an excuse. But I think now there are so many things coming together, and sort of it's almost impossible. I mean, I personally wouldn't have gotten through the last 6 months without help, without a lot of support. And I think, you know, that's really the crux of it. That's really, you know, that's what I've been looking for, is how do we get that systems change? And really, it's been a really very basic fundamental thing. And it really is about showing people that it's okay to say, hey, I need help. And also, you know, giving people positive experiences of getting help, of being helped, and by getting people to help others and getting people to make a difference, not only do the people who need help get the help, but also people connect with their, oh, I actually can make a difference. What I do does matter, and build on that. And really, that's what I'm hoping to create. So really hoping that you guys will, in your own way, be able to help and contribute. And I'm really, really excited about what this looks like. So I really want to, you know, I'm not cutting this off. Obviously, I'm not in a rush. If any of you are, obviously don't feel all the way to stay, but I just, once again, wanted to express your gratitude for hearing me out. I think you guys got the better time slot because I got to practice a little bit one more time before I spoke to you guys and refine the message a little bit. So I really appreciate you guys being here a lot.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
You're just practicing with us for the next round, are you? We know there will be one.
No, I know. I mean, people have asked for a recording of this as well. And so, you know, definitely, you know, making sure that it gets out there. And I'm saying, like, I think I recorded both sessions, but I think this is the one that's going to be the one I'm going to be using. And yeah, I hope that it will be something that I will be talking to more people about. And I really hope that these co-design sort of sessions come together and work really well and are really exciting. And I mean, I need to figure out sort of what the structure of those look like, and, you know, the scheduling and everything. But I think it's going to be really cool. And I think, you know, if we connect with the right people, that's why I'm asking if you know anyone also. If we connect with the right people, then this can be really great. And it's just about coming together and seeing what we all have together and what we can build together. And yeah, speaking of, actually, I just got up right before I was on this call. I was actually on the phone with David's friend Robbie, and we're gonna be talking a little bit because he's working on something really cool that can connect to this as well. Yeah, so that's it for me. If you guys have anything to say.
I just have an idea.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention that I'm not looking at my phone or anything. I'm knitting. So if I'm looking down, it's just I'm knitting. So.
What are you knitting?
I knew you were
Let me see
knitting.
what
I
you're
could
making.
tell. I was like,
Show it to us.
she's knitting.
Yeah, I'm knitting a baby hat because it's getting colder and colder for baby.
Oh,
Which baby? Are you trying to tell me something?
No.
No, I'm just kidding. The baby squirrel?
I'm not gonna steal your thunder on your big reveal. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't. You know, I'm not.
I was just thinking about a lot of something that convinces a lot of people is the impact of what you're doing. So
Yep.
like often we focus on the impact on the people we're helping. So like what effect a dog can have on people.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be interesting also to get some information or studies or something about the impact it's having on you, because most people feel really great when they're helping.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a two-way street also, because people who receive, like, most of the time help also have things to offer, and also have things where they could also feel good about being useful to some other people. And there are some systems like our community systems like La Corderie, which is a system that is based on time and not money. So it's like an hour of your time is worth the same as of the time of like a lawyer or a hairdresser or an accountant, and you just swap hours and you're helping each other out with the skills and the time that you have. So I think like valuing the both ends of this relationship of helping and receiving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really good point, and I think it's super important, absolutely, to realize, yeah, that giving is also taking, and taking is also giving. When you accept that you need help, you give someone the opportunity to help you, and helping people makes you feel good, which is why Pay It Forward works, because we like helping, and we like being of use, and we like being useful. And, and that's why there's definitely a two-way street for sure. But yeah, I think also research on how helping helps the helper would be really, really interesting. It's really definitely an interesting.
Yeah. I was at a for work, like a workshop or kind of working paper presentation by Questgren, which is like a Concordia University research group for like basically Anglophone studies in Quebec. And they were saying that, the author of the study was basically saying that Anglophones that are involved in, community activism are generally happier than those who are not. And it's also similar with the Francophone minority in the rest of Canada, that they show just they feel better because they're involved in, or not necessarily because it's, correlation is not causation, but I would say it is in this case. Like, it just feels better to be, just not, part of a community, but also able to show your work and end the day feeling like you've at least contributed something in a kind of a wider sense of purpose. So for sure, I'll dig that up in my work email and I can send it to you, because the guys, and it's kind of an interesting approach to, like, it's pretty niche, right? Like, Anglophone community activists, are they happy or not? So
Right.
Yeah, the odds of me having, been to that workshop and then this are pretty slim, but maybe not. Maybe it's also like indicative of a kind of a, I don't know, a wider shift to where people are thinking like business as usual in terms of general well-being and happiness is not, it's not where it should be. So we could push it in a more productive and healthier and happier direction.
Yeah, that, definitely. I mean, I think, the question is a good question. I don't necessarily know that being, I mean, yes, in a way, there is a certain amount of like being in the minority in that context, as well as being marginalized, and that's definitely interesting insight to have in general. If it's not, me aside from, I'm as someone who's marginalized in many different ways, it's something that's definitely, helpful and interesting. And, obviously that's going to be another challenge with getting this off the ground, is that I have all of the challenges that I do have in getting through. But, like I said, we're not building from scratch. We're building on a strong movement that's been around for 11 years. And that has some good constant support. And so I'm really, really excited, and I hope you guys are too. And I can't wait to see where this goes.
Hey guys, I got to run. I got to put
Yeah,
the kids to bed.
for
This
sure.
is great. Thank
Right.
you so much for inviting me to this. Take care, guys. Have a good
Thank
night.
you for being
Cheers,
here.
nice to meet you.
Cheers.
Bye.
So what would you see would be like the next few steps, Aryeh?
So for the next few steps is, sort of getting people on another Zoom call, and I guess for me, the next step is sort of figuring out what the structure for these calls are, in terms of like getting them to actually, be more productive. Or like tonight was like, this is what I'm thinking about, who do you know, come check it out, come find out what's next, and that sort of thing. And then tomorrow is, and then the next stage is figuring out, what the structure looks like, specifically what roles need to be filled. I mean, I know ideally the role that I would have working alongside me is someone who's doing something like would do something like a COO, kind of a director of operations kind of thing, to help bring that together. But I think the minimum viable product for the institute at the very beginning. Anyway, you know, in the context of what we're dealing with, I think is someone that's going to help me sort of produce the content. So do the research, to, you know, footnote the stuff that we do, to back it up, so that at least we have, you know, has access to the research databases and the articles and everything else, and it has that sort of training, and then we can at least start publishing some content based on some research. But that's sort of the, you know, the minimum for me of all of this coming out right now and seeing where that grows from. But definitely, I think, because video is actually a really difficult medium to deal with. And I mean, it sounds simple, but even like, you know, there is literally a light above me and the light in front of me, and I still look dark, you know, kind of with the lighting and that kind of thing. It's just that other element of it. I mean, maybe, and like a podcast could be fun, you know, like doing a podcast, you know, getting, you know, a good producer and that kind of thing. But that's the thing, is I think there needs to be, alongside me as the vision holder, someone who's doing more of the production, you know, operations kind of thing. But I think maybe even before we get to that, I mean, like that's the ultimate goal in terms of like the next person to join the team. But maybe instead of that, all right, yeah. So like, would be, so like, instead of that, the next step would be sort of to create some sort of an outline for the co-design meetings, right? So and figuring out when to schedule those and how to get the people together, and then what happens when we get them in the room. And is it a 1 hour call? Is it a 2 hour call? And what do we, you know, like, so that's those would be the next steps. It's like finding more people and sort of figuring out what's available. You know, for the people who are interested, who have responded to emails that I've sent out before this, or who have shown up today, who have sent me messages, who are looking forward to this video, is figuring out how to mobilize all those people so we can move forward.
Okay. So it's like the human resource side.
Yeah, a little bit.
That sounds cool. So for me, I'm interested in like the more, like, I guess the research and kind of writing stuff. But as I'd mentioned, so I have, I'm literally in the middle of that tonight to try to get my my thesis published. So once that's done, which should be maybe a month from now, I could do, you know, more actual like reading and research summaries and things like that. And I have access to like McGill University's stuff through my sister's login, which is nice.
Yeah,
so it comes in handy, you know. Well, I got like locked out of,
Sharing is caring.
Exactly. That's a small change right there. I got back into the university system. I mean, it was just funny. Like I, you know, trying to download an article in an academic journal that I've cited already, article, and I'm trying to download it from these paywalls, and they're like, no, you have to like pay. But I'm like, I've already read this and cited it. Like, it's in my thesis. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, and like it's volunteer work, which I found out that academic publishing is mostly volunteer work for if you're contributing a chapter. So I was like, oh, cool, like great, that's awesome. And then paywalls, you're just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So
I hear that. Well, luckily we know a few university students, so we can get around that for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, on the research side, I'd be happy to help out starting in like a month or so.
Sounds great.
And I'll join all the calls that are going on like in the interim.
I'm really excited. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have anything to add?
I was wondering, have you secured your handles yet? Do you have like the Twitter handle and?
Not yet. So I mean, until this gets a little bit more concrete. I mean, I have been looking at it. It's a little bit complex because like Small Change Institute is too long. I don't know if SC Institute is clear enough. You know, like Small Change and Small Changes have all been taken. It's a little bit complicated. I mean, like this is more like the working title, and I'd love for it to be the real title because it sort of really does convey what we're trying to do. But so I haven't really tied that down yet. It is something that I'm going to look at in the next few days, but I was more hoping to like see before I sort of invest myself in a domain name and hosting and all that. just to, you know, although I guess reserving the names can't hurt too much. Yeah, just to figure out what works and what's actually going to be memorable.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. I like it. I also like the logo you have. It's like it works. It's at least for a start. It's good. It's like clear. It's nice little pattern.
I very much just took the fonts from the free Hugs t-shirts that I wear and used them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which I think is perfect because it's this connection, right? Not everyone would see it. Like new people wouldn't, but some people know HugTrain might. But yeah, I think just having the co-design work is already a great next step, you know, like, and there's something humble also around saying, like, rather than rushing into action, it's like the next step is actually trying to scan for what's there, what opportunities there are, thinking together, right? Rather than anyone, and there's the perfect path. So I look forward to that, and if there's something that can happen around those, I'm happy. You know where to find me, area, and co-design workshops. They're cool. They're fun to organize. They're not always like, you know, they have to be thought through a little bit. And
you help me with that. That would be awesome. You know,
exactly.
A little bit more experience with it. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
That'd be fun.
Awesome. All right. My mom's called me a couple times in the last few minutes, so I'm gonna check and make sure that that's okay. But anyways, thanks everyone for coming, and I'm really excited and really looking forward to what we create together.
Super.
Good
Yeah.
luck.
Thanks,
Happy
Ari.
birthday.
Yeah.
Thanks, Arya. It's nice to meet you both.
Yeah. It was good to meet you, Ronnie. Bye-bye.
Bye.